Today's video is brought to you by Squarespace, my go-to for building a website and online shop. Hello, dear friends. As promised, here is the exciting part 2 of this oil painting series. And by exciting, I mean exciting compared to part 1, which contained almost no painting footage at all. Also, if you'd like to see several hours of real-time tutorials where I recorded voiceover as I was painting, along with hundreds of hours of exclusive content and monthly art rewards, feel free to check out my Patreon at patreon.com/happydartist. Okay, so to quickly recap part 1, I did a drawing transfer and then toned the panel with Bohemian Green Earth oil paint. But I skipped over my usual underpainting steps and went straight into rendering with nothing to help me but the transfer lines, a solid base tone, and an ever-increasing sense of panic as I neared closer and closer to my deadline. I started this piece about 2 weeks before it was due, and I hate to admit it, but sometimes when I know I don't have much time to finish a painting, it oddly motivates me to paint better. I think it's because I have no time to dilly-dally or second-guess myself, and I'm forced to make bold, confident strokes. And with my work lately, I've been purposely trying to loosen up my brushwork and paint application. I want to be able to choose which parts of the piece to leave more underworked and abstract, and which parts of the piece to tighten up with meticulous, detailed rendering. The harmony of loose and tight rendering is what really elevates oil paintings to the next level. Same with textures. Some parts of the piece, like the shadows or dark hair, yearn for a thinner application of paint, while other parts, like the attention-grabbing highlights of the face and other focal points, require thicker paint with lots of body and texture. A general rule of thumb I've come to learn from classical training is darker values need to be thinner and lighter values need to be thicker. But even within the lighter values, there's a hierarchy. Paint applied to the background, regardless of value, should be thinner, while paint on the foreground or main subject needs to be thicker in the lights. I'm also trying to learn how to use the brush as a tool to deposit paint rather than always using it to blend and soften and pet the surface of the canvas. As I paint more and more, it is surprising and maybe a little counterintuitive to realize how much we should avoid brushing with a brush and how often paint should just be accurate colors and values deposited next to each other and left alone. Again, like with so many other factors, there needs to be a harmony of rough, patchy tiles contrasting against smooth, softly blended gradients. Despite the simplicity of this piece, due to its limited color palette and lack of an actual background, I learned a lot through experimenting with different methods of paint application in order to still make the piece look dynamic and interesting. When I come up with concepts that are filled to the brim with details, it's easy for me to just render tightly everywhere in order to depict those details. With a more minimal concept like this one, I can slow down and be more deliberate about where I choose to put in more details and texture versus where to show more restraint. For this piece, I chose to render the face and the flower tightly and with a thicker paint application, but I left the hair and the dress super loose with almost unfinished looking brushwork. Especially with the dress, I was very careful not to overblend or pet the surface of the panel and just treated my brush almost like a palette knife, where I deposited the paint and left it alone. The gaps in between paint tiles where you can see the rough layer underneath peeking through is what I think gives the fabric so much more personality and materiality. I also finally found a good use for my flat brushes. For those of you who have been watching me for a while, you know that I used to primarily only use filberts. And just in case you're new and have no clue what I'm talking about, flat brushes are rectangular in shape, whereas filbert brushes have a more rounded dome shape. I never used to find any use for flat brushes other than maybe sketching lines with them turned on their sharp, thin edge. But now I use flat brushes wherever I have to keep the paint application loose because it's harder for me to blend with flat brushes. So I'm kind of almost forcing myself to blend less by using brushes that are hard to blend with. And for the tighter parts, I still use filberts, but lately I've been using my small size 2/0 filberts more often. The smaller brushes are not only great for detail work like eyebrows and lashes, but they're also great for creating organic skin texture because they add just enough variation and quote unquote bumpiness to the skin in order for it to feel natural. Whereas using a large brush on skin can make faces appear a little face-tuned and overly blurred. Also, the difference between a small filbert brush and a larger flat brush creates such interesting visual contrast and really helps play into the harmony I keep talking about. And that about wraps up today's video. If you'd like to see this painting in person, she is currently on display at Arch Enemy Arts in Philadelphia. I'll leave the show information in the video description. The original has already been adopted, but if you'd like fine art prints of this piece, I have those available in my shop at happyd-artist.com. And of course, you guessed it, my eternal never-ending sale is still going on in my shop, so if you'd like 20% off your order of prints and originals, just enter the code HOLIDAY at happyd-artist.com. And if you're interested in learning more about how to paint and draw, I have lots of art educational content on my Patreon page, including exclusive video tutorials, step-by-step photo tutorials, live streams, podcasts, and even surprise art gift boxes. All available at patreon.com/happydartist. I'd love to have you join my Patreon family. A big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video and supporting the art community. Squarespace is the best platform to create a professional website and online shop. Their beautifully designed templates are easy to use for beginners and look great on both desktop and mobile. I've sold my art through Squarespace for almost 10 years, and I can attest to the quality of their online commerce features, whether you want to sell digital or physical items. They also provide useful analytics that help you make the most of your online business. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/happydartist to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Also, if you want to check out more artworks, works in progress, and just random daily artist adventures, feel free to check out my Instagram, and you can follow me at the handle @happydartist.